And we are recording. So, in this recording, we have Netta's beautiful work here. We've got a cat, and we've got a background fence. We've got a toy over here, and we've got the cat food down here. And part of this project is grouping these things separately so that they can be moved and sized separately. Okay, so if we take a look here, we've got the fence. Since there is good programming, well, we're missing the comments at the top, but I'm guessing she's going to add those later. But at least we have these things commented off here. We've got our fence here, so we know that we don't have to do anything with that. And then, oh, it's a bunny. Is it a bunny or is it a cat? So we've got our, I think it's a cat, looks like a cat, and we've got our variables xcat, ycat, and cat size. So you can see here that she's done it in the more difficult way for the sizing, which is great. This is the harder way of doing it. So the cat can move left and right with the xcat variable. The cat can move up and down with the ycat variable, and the cat can be sized with the cat size variable. And you can see that she has done it the more difficult way. So I'm just going to reset those variables. We like to reset the xcat and the ycat to 200 each, and the cat size not less than 1, but let's move it down actually a little bit so the cat is just right there. So the cat is working, and you can see that she's done it the hard way, remember, for the offsets and so on. Now we are going to talk about how to do the easy way for the cat food and the toy. So here's the food, nicely labeled as well. Now I can check that this is the food by commenting it out. Then I can go /* and // which is multi-line comments. You can see all the food is now gone. So this is the comments for this is the code for the food, and it's labeled up here. Wonderful. Now, what we're going to do above the food is we're going to do a push matrix. Actually, before I do the push matrix and the pop matrix, let me just put in the scale. So let me put in my variable. So let's put in a variable and say var x food, and we'll set that equal to 200 as well. And we'll say var y food. And actually, this time, when we're doing it the easy method, we might want to set these to 0. So when we're doing the harder method, when we did the harder method, the xcat and the ycat, we set those to 200 kind of initially, the center of the screen. When we do the easier method, we might want to set our x food and our y food variables to 0. And then I'm going to make a variable for sizing, so food size. And because this is the harder method, sorry, the easier method, I'm not going to set it to 100. I'm going to set it to 1, which is what scale uses. Scale uses kind of numbers around 1, 0 to 1, 2 would be double the size. All right, now I'm going to say translate, and I'm going to use these two variables. So x food, comma, y food, semicolon. Now, nothing happens with our food. It's still there. But that's because these values are 0. So if I take these values now and move them, you can see the food moves left and right and up and down. But what's the problem? What's the problem when I move these? Anybody? Yep, everything else moved too. The toy also moved as well, and we don't want that. So that's why you have to have a push matrix. So just before your translate, scale, or rotate, if you do a push matrix, that's kind of the start of that section. And then because this is the end of the food, so the food is over here, this is now text. So that means I'm going to do a pop matrix here. And what that does is it says, okay, this translation will only happen until it hits the pop matrix. Okay, so you have a push matrix before it, then you have a pop matrix after. Now watch the difference. When I do this, only the food moves. No round of applause? Okay. All right. Yay. So thank you. Now, the same thing for scale. We can just add our scale command. And we can go scale food size in here. And the same thing now, it's already in the same pushMatrix and popMatrix. So I don't need another pushMatrix and popMatrix for the scale because it's within the same pushMatrix and popMatrix. So that is fine. So now I can change this to 0.5. I can change this to 0.1. You can see that it gets really small up here. I can change this to 2. It should get bigger. Oh, it's probably too big. That it's off the screen. 1.5 is probably too big. That it's off the screen. But if you change the size, you might just have to move it around to get it back. So there, it's bigger now, and I can use the translate to get it back onto the screen. So let's change this to 0.5, or just leave it at 1, and put this back at 0, and then we have the cat food on the screen. Make sense? Okay, now the same thing happens for your toy. So there is the code for the toy. Let's make sure that the toy is all of this code first. By commenting it out, the toy should disappear. So this is how we start a multi-line comment, /*, and then we close it with a //. So I've essentially erased all of that code as far as the computer is concerned, but I can easily put it back in by removing those comments. So there's the toy back in. So now the same thing, I'm going to go var toy or xToy equals 0, var yToy equals 0, and var toy size gets 1. The same thing, I only want it to affect, now there's nothing underneath this code, so I probably don't need a pushMatrix, popMatrix here, but it is always still good practice, because if you go then and add code later, or add anything after the fact, it would be affected. So you do want to do a pushMatrix and a popMatrix just the same way. At the bottom of that toy code, and here we're going to put our translate, but this time we're going to use these variables. So xToy, comma yToy, and then scale toy size, and now we can move the toy around. And this is the purpose of the project, so that you can move both and scale both. And there's us making it smaller. So this project's actually working now. This is one thing I would like you to do though, is I would like you, just for me to make it easier to mark, I would like you to take all your variables and put them at the top of the code. So here we have our variables for our cat. So I'm going to take the variables for the cat and I'm going to cut. So Control X allows you to cut. I know a lot of people don't know that. They just copy and delete. But you can go Control X and that will cut in any program, by the way, not just in programming, Microsoft Word or whatever. I'm going to take those variables and put them at the top. And then I'm going to go find my variables for the food and put them at the top. That just makes it easier for me to find all your variables in one shot rather than scrolling through your program. Okay, to find all of the variables. And so then I take my toy variables and I put them at the top. And they will still work. It's just now it's all your controls are at the top. So if you want to move them all around, it's a lot easier to move them all around than to go and find them in the code to move all three of them around. Does that make sense? Okay, any questions? All right, thanks for paying attention.